Hello, my name is Andy and I am the Village Idiot. I'm armed with a car and a GoPro and an unhealthy amount of time on my hands. I'm using that time to attempt to visit every civil parish in England. You're watching the Newark and Sherwood series, a district of 84 civil parishes right in the centre of Nottinghamshire. Come with me as we delve into one of them. Welcome back to Newark and Sherwood, everybody. Now, there is no disputing the biggest and most important landmark in this place. It's behind me here. You can see on the bend in this road a tall building. That is going to be the last thing that we talk about in this village. It's quite an important structure, but we'll get to that. We will get to that. We've got the rest of the village to see first. Let's head off into Kirklington. This Newark and Sherwood video is sponsored by Past Days, a family history blog by June Terrington. You'll find a link in the description. Here's my disclaimer for people who may be watching me for the first time. I say things as I would in my native accent and dialect. As a result, I may not pronounce things in the same way as the locals do. Remember, I'm a visitor. It's impossible to know everything. Leave me a comment, spin me a like and bash that subscribe button. Let's get to today's parish video. Continuing with this run along the A617, welcome to Kirklington, which lies between Newark, 9.5 miles to the east, and Mansfield, 10 miles to the west. Kirklington's name seems to have two meanings, and it's really up to you as to which one you prefer. One theory is that it derives from the Old English personal name Cyrtla, making this Cyrtla's farm or settlement, but I'm more inclined to think it's to do with the church, Kirk being the old Scottish word for church. It may well be a reference to St Swithun's, which is located on the A617. Also just off the A617 is Kirklington Hall, a massive Jacobean style house which was for well over a century associated with the Whetham family. A descendant of that family was John Boddam-Whetham, who was an English naturalist, traveller and first-class cricketer, born at the Hall and educated at Eton. Kirklington has several features which make it a typical Nottinghamshire village, but by far and away the best thing, for me at least, is its striking former watermill on the River Greet, which stands tall and dominant over a bend in the road towards Southall. Kirklington once had a railway station too on the Mansfield to Southall line. That's where this episode is going to end, but you'll have to wait a while to hear anything about it because it's not within the parish boundaries. There's a lot that is though, so let's go and find it all. We begin on Southall Road at a bus shelter. You can catch two services at this stop, the number 363 and the 364, both of which run to Southall. There's a parish notice board in here, so you can mark off Kirklington, everybody. We're hurtling towards that Newark and Sherwood finishing line. Next, it's School Lane, and yes, there is a school down here. This is the current school, Kirklington Primary. A small school, yes, but it serves a lot of other local places. As far as schools go, Kirklington has had more than just this in its time. We'll see the original village school later, and also a special school on this walk. The rest of Southall Road is typical of a village in this part of the world, sporting as it does some of that unmistakable Nottinghamshire red brick. There are as many grand old houses as there are new. You can't call it a peaceful street though, because at its northern end, it shares a junction with the A617. Now, we don't often see a lot of boarded up buildings in Newark and Sherwood, but there's one here in Kirklington. Wouldn't it be great if someone could just restore that to its former glory. It's one of the best properties I've seen so far in this village, and I think if it was just given a bit of TLC, it would look fantastic. Let's carry on. After a short walk along the A617, we come to St Swithun's Church. This dates from the 13th century originally, but was restored externally between 1873 and 1874. It also had an internal restoration in 1892. Its current brick tower was added in the 17th century, unusually so because this period saw relatively little ecclesiastical building anywhere in England. One of the bells in the church tower dates from 1664, which may well be when the tower was completed. Listed amongst its benefactors are Henry, the Lord Marquess of Dorchester, and John Moore. Both were major landowners in the area for a long time. The Moores are particularly associated with Kirklington Church, which has several floor stones in its chancel dedicated to Moore family members. There's also a mural monument to John Moore's wife, Catherine. And on the subject of memorials, there's a couple of Commonwealth war graves in its churchyard. Now, almost directly opposite the church, there's a school which occupies Kirklington Hall. And that school, as you can see from this sign, is Wings School. And this is going to be today's special section because it is private property. Wings School provides education for children who cannot attend mainstream schools for varying reasons. It occupies the massive Kirklington Hall. The hall is not a particularly well-known house, and its history has never been comprehensively recorded. The current house was extensively remodelled and enlarged in 1904. Its associated parkland contains very few features, apart from a serpentine lake designed by landscape gardener William Eames. It was owned by the Whetham family from 1736 until the end of the 19th century. John Boddam was responsible for remodelling the hall in 1779. It's had a flurry of owners since 1900, including Oswald Bainbridge, a director of several colliery companies that we've met on our travels before, like Blackwell and Siltston. It was requisitioned during World War II, and in 1958 the Rodney School bought the house and remained there until 2006. Wings would take over shortly after they left. Now, speaking of the Whethams, they are responsible for this building. This is the former village school, which could hold up to 44 children. It's now Kirklington Village Hall. Bearing a date stone of 1840 above its porch, this had accommodation for the schoolmaster in the left-hand wing. It's listed Grade 2. Did you note the defib machine on its wall? That's because it's not in this phone box on Church Lane. This still has its phone. After that, Church Lane continues to a sort of dead end. The road becomes a track and there's a junction, at which point you can pick up a footpath which runs along the edge of a field towards the River Greet. Now, it's been a while since we saw the Greet, and last time we did it wasn't much more than a stream really. However, here it looks a bit different. We're close to its source, which means it's much faster flowing here. The Greet is one of the most important landmarks in the village, and we're about to see why. Well, the River Greet is looking nice and calm under our feet here on this bridge, and if you look in the distance over there, sorry, this bridge is a bit wobbly, you'll see it's very much wider there. There are sections of the River Greet which are wider than others, and there's a reason for that. We're going to be walking towards one of those reasons shortly. In the mid-19th century, the River Greet was used to power plenty of mills along its length. You might remember the one in Rolleston, for example, where we last encountered the river. This is Kirklington's mill, which is in essentially original condition externally. Although almost certainly now devoid of any internal machinery, the mill is a Grade 2 listed building, and it dominates a bend in the road towards Southall. It was used to grind corn to make flour. It's now a house, and a very expensive one at that. It's a 6-bedroomed property. In front of the mill is a road bridge which is also listed, and there's also a mill dam with a sluice gate too. Next to the dam is Mill Farm, and only 500 yards upstream from this area is the source of the River Greet. The farmhouse, the bridge and the mill all date from the early 1800s. You can keep Kirklington Hall. For me, this is the village's best spot by miles. I tell you, between windmills and watermills, I love finding mills on this channel. That is easily one of the most impressive mills we have ever found. Isn't it just fantastic? Isn't it gorgeous? I know a lot of people might not think the same way as me, but I certainly do. Now, to the south of Kirklington, on the border with Edingley, is the former Edingley and Kirklington railway station. I'm not sure if it's Kirklington and Edingley, I can't remember which way around it is. Anyway, it's there, as you can see. Now, this is actually in Edingley, not in Kirklington, because the border is just to the north of this. So I will talk a bit more about this in the Edingley episode. I'm going to be filming it whilst I'm here. Now, I've actually driven, as you can see, to get to its car park, down part of the old track bed, because you can see this is the station platform here. Okay, so I'm actually standing on what was the former railway line, and the railway line these days, it has been turned into the Southall Trail, and we'll be seeing a lot more of the Southall Trail in future episodes. If I turn the camera around, you can see it runs off into the distance. There's the car park there where I've parked. Very potholy, by the way. Be careful if you come down here. And in a future episode, we'll be walking down part of this for quite a stretch, so I hope you're ready for that. But for now, this has been the parish of Kirklington, and I've been Andy, also known as the Village Idiot, and I'm out.